This one, you know, the minister next to me here, Minister Ginger. You're sorry. I'm sorry about that. Minister Zulu is correctly reminding me that today is International Women's Day. And it's such an important day. And now you can imagine she probably is going to demand a space today. A lot more than usual. Yeah, so we're ready now.
Okay.
The document, the statement will be distributed quickly to you now. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, members of the media. Morning, ministers, DGs, officials. Welcome to the Economic Sectors Employment and Infrastructure Development Cluster briefing, led by the chairperson of the Economic Cluster, Minister Gugile and Quincy. He's joined by other ministers in the cluster, Minister Mildred Olifant, Minister Senzeni Zokwana, Minister Lindiwe Zulu, and Minister Abraham Patel. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much. Once more, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Cape Town and Pretoria. And secondly, let me just say that again, for emphasis, I think it's important for us to apologize once more, to say we called you twice before. We cancelled very short notices. Thank you for your understanding. You see a good turnout again today. Thank you very much for that. Secondly, that it is International Women's Day today. I was watching on the news, the former minister, Mlambo Ngcuka, was on TV this morning, claiming the space correctly for women to be recognized and going higher places than is the case right now. And I think, Minister, thanks very much for that reminder. Yes, now this is post-SONA and budget speech interaction with members of the media. You've gone through both the State of the Nation address, the budget speech by the minister, and now as a cluster we have to interact with you. Now the SONA actually set out government programs. Particularly, we are focusing here on economic sectors, employment, and infrastructure development. So the President spoke, and the emphasis was on the 9-point plan. Now, the 9-point plan constitutes the core of the program of government, and we are here to deal with that, some of the details of that, the 9-point plan. And ministers here sitting will be. And deputy ministers also, we were sitting, some of them behind you, because some of the ministers are out of the country with the president. They will participate in these discussions. We are here, therefore, to say, here is what the president said. This is what we're doing in terms of the 9-point plan as expressed or pronounced by the president. But secondly, the Minister of Finance provided the necessary resources for us to execute the program, the 9-point plan. So the 9-point plan, you just for a reminder, is revitalization of agriculture and agro-processing value chain. And this is a program which, in fact, you know, if you remember, the National Development Plan is speaking to 1 million jobs created by 2030, not smallholder farmers rather, by 2030. So it's a very, very important, one of the most important points in the 9-point plan, and an effective implementation of a higher impact industrial policy action plan. Behind you is seated Deputy Minister Musin. I had a discussion with the minister before he left, and I asked him to ensure that the Deputy Minister is here. Thank you, Zoe, for coming through, so that we could interact on this and some of the details that could be asked by members of the media. And then the unlocking the potential of small, medium, and micro enterprises, cooperatives, and township and rural enterprises. Very important. The minister sitting next to me, Minister Zokwan is also here. All of us are here. We'll deal with those issues that relate to the spaces where we're supposed to be performing in terms of implementing the 9-point plan as announced by the President, and then advancing beneficiation and adding value to our mineral wealth, Again, we hear members of the cluster, including the directors general who are here, who will also participate. Asking your question, we'll get responses to that in terms of the specific detail, which I'm not going to go through. And then growing oceans economy and tourism. Very important, you know this, that we've gone through Operation Pakisa in oceans economy, and the minister is on her way. Of course, I'm sure she will find us still moving, but there are ministers here and deputy ministers and officials who could deal with the responses, rather with your questions with regards to this point of the 9.1 of this 9-point plans, and then resolving the energy challenge. Again, we're here to deal with those issues that you may want to raise, because we think it's an important aspect of growing the economy in our country. Moderating workplace conflicts. Of course, the minister is here. Now, there are cross-cutters in terms of this to boost the diversity and diversify the economy. Those are broadband rollout. The minister is on his way, and some of us are here to respond to questions. Water and sanitation, very important, especially this time when we're struck by drought in the country. The minister has been very active, all of us working on that. Minister Zokwan is here. All of us are here to deal with these issues that relate to drought and what government is doing in terms of the interventions, etc. Transport infrastructure, very important. We also have because one of the very important cross-cutters is infrastructure development. We've got Mr. Patel here who will comment on some of those issues overall, because it cuts across the work that we were referring to, all of it, science, technology, and innovation, and then scaling up private sector participation. Those are the 9-point plan, and we're expecting you to interact with us on that, and so the details will come from the individual programs. But broadly speaking, therefore, the President has spoken, given the program of action, and the Minister of Finance provided the resources for us to be able to execute those programs. In the debates in both the SONA and the budget speech, a lot of information came through. You were there, members of the media. You were there. If there might be areas you want to have expanded information on, then you are free to do so. This is your day. You're welcome. Thank you very much. It's over to you now. Any question?
Thank you, Minister. We're going to take 2 rounds of questions from Cape Town and Pretoria. And then also just to note, we've joined by Minister of Higher Education and Training, also a member of the cluster, Minister Blade Nzimande. Starting with questions in Cape Town. Yes.
Thank you. My questions to the Minister of Labour. We don't see often, so I'm going to use the opportunity. Minister, firstly, you haven't attended the Portfolio Committee, as I recall, once since 2009. Will you put a request into Mrs. Yengeni to perhaps, seeing that she clearly is not going to ever invite you, to perhaps come and brief the members of Parliament so that oversight can take place? And secondly, your special advisor, Mr. McKees, is he still in your employ? And if so, what effect has the forensic audit that was done about him had on his continued employment by you?
If I can ask if you can please identify yourself and the media house that you represent.
Jan Bear, Sunday Times.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Ministers. This question, Chantal Presence from the African News Agency. Minister Nkwinti, just last week, President Zuma, when he opened the National House of Traditional Leaders, he raised the prospect of shifting the land claims date from 1913 to the 1800s. Is this something that the government is investigating? And just logistically, is that really possible?
Good morning, Linda Ensor, Business Day. I'd like to ask Minister Zokwana, that 16 billion rand cost of the drought, how is that calculated? What is it included in that? And Minister Nkwinti, The budget allocation for land reform, if I understand correctly, is significantly lower than what is required to really expedite the program. Your comments, please, and what does the slowdown mean in terms of the ruling party's objectives? Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions from Cape Town? Last 3 questions.
Wendell from Reuters. I'm not sure if this is to Minister Gugile or not, or anybody who can respond. On page 6 of your statement, please, could you just, on the first header, second line, we are negotiating with a Chinese consortium to invest 3.9 billion. Could you just give me some indication as to who this consortium is, if you can, or what is it about? Is this the platinum fuel cells thing? I mean, which one is this, please? If you can just give me a little bit more details on that, please. Thank you. Page 6, just advancing beneficiation, the second line.
Okay, next, there was a hand in front. Okay.
Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. To Minister Zokwana, at what stage will we declare the drought a national disaster? Are there discussions underway given the debt and the other constraints? And what would, if there's no plan to declare the drought a national disaster, what would have to happen for you to be persuaded to do so? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Minister.
Yes, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Firstly, on my attendance to the Portfolio Committee, I do believe that the member who has asked that question understand that there is a separation of powers between executive and parliament. When we attend the Portfolio Committee, we attend in terms of the invite by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. I do believe that the member is aware that I think I was invited twice in the SCOPA, and I attended those meetings. And I have been invited to the Portfolio Committee on Labour, I think 3 weeks back, when I was briefing the committee on the UIF amendments. So I can't just patch there. I'm not a member of the Portfolio Committee, but I attend there based on the invitation by the chairperson. So I have attended because I was invited. And secondly, on the issue of Mr. Mkhize, firstly, I must say there was an investigation of which I was not really informed about it, except when there was a draft report that was submitted to me. And later, I formed a task team to further investigate those issues, because the first report that was given to me was really didn't have facts then, but also when you look at the NETLEC reports from 2009 to 2013, there was no indication that there was a maladministration on that one. That's why I had to advise even the study group that they have to go through those NETLEC reports. But at the same time, what has happened is that the investigation report was given to SAPS to further investigate. If there is a criminality, then they have to take that responsibility. And in terms of the constitution of this country, a person is innocent until proven otherwise. So that's what I'm waiting for. If there is a criminality on that one, then SAPS has to take the action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Let me welcome members of Parliament. And thank you very much for coming in. Yeah, on this question, on the shifting the land claims date from 1913, well, the President has, on several occasions, it was not the first time, if I remember well. I think this must have been the 3rd year running, the President making this comment when opening the National House of Traditional Leaders. So it has not come forward to formally, in other words, it doesn't come formally to us to say this is what we should be doing. Yes, the President has made the comments. Hopefully that matter would be dealt with. Now the President has raised it 3 times in 3 years. Yeah, when that matter is brought formally to us, we will engage it. Thanks very much. Minister Zokwan.
Thanks, morning. First question deals with the 16 billion that has been calculated by individual stakeholders within agriculture. And in our debate with them, the view was not to get it from government, but is to look at different ways we can be able to assist struggling farmers. Hence, we have approached IDC that has promised to put aside R500 million to assist farmers with soft loans and land bank. But also another view was put that maybe we need to approach the Treasury where they can stand surety in some of the indebtedness of farmers. Not necessarily that there will be money from government of 16 billion. It was calculated that it may come in different forms, and those discussions are taking place as we have constant meetings with the stakeholders who are exposed to drought. On the second question, on what would take to make me understand that it is rational to declare this drought as a national disaster. This view has been pended by one of the political parties, not taking into account the fact that what we have seen recently as we are doing estimates of crops that would tell us how much will we be able to order or to import in terms of grains, and the results have been proving positive, because the latest estimate was that we'll be able to harvest 7.2 million tons, and that would expose us to 1.2 white maize and 2.7 yellow maize, and we are continuing with those estimates because the rain patterns have been worrying. So whether then that would call for a national disaster being called, when the results are that there have been changes since January in terms of rain patterns. And the other one is that if you were to do that, the banks would reduce their exposure in agriculture in terms of their planning going forward. And therefore you are running the risk that when you need them to come on board for forward investment, that would take time to go forward. But this voice, unfortunately, has not been put up by those who are involved in agriculture, like agricultural organizations, because we do meet with them regularly. By the way, we are in a program as a department of visiting provinces that were hardly hit by drought. In most of them, things have improved. And thanks to the Department of Rural Development and any other organizations, yesterday I met with Gift of the Givers, and they gave me what they have been doing more with others in assisting farmers and communities to deal with this drought. And we're worried about the coming winter. So there are plans to deal with that. I don't think that a national disaster would assist more than us doing work now to make sure that, because in most of the areas, even in Western Cape, only 2 municipalities were declared by the province as disaster. It is the case in many, except in the 6 provinces that were declared as such. But other areas have been partly exposed to high disaster levels, high drought levels. So I don't think the debate that should be whether we declare it national or what, but is what we do in assisting farmers. And I can assure you those farmers are getting the ear of government as we are sitting in the MC and we're raising their issue. By the way, they have met with the Deputy President, the group of the guys from Grain South Africa. So their views are well taken care, and they know that.
Deputy Minister Mosina.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think on the question of the fuel cell, Impala Platinum is the company that is engaging government on this work. Thank you very much.
Was that in response to my question? Forgive me, my question wasn't answered. In the statement, there's a specific figure given and a specific project. So I wanted to know, what is this about? A little bit more on that. And I thought is this the fuel cell thing that government has been talking about or not? So thank you very much, Deputy Minister Messina. But just to say it's not Impala, it's not helping me. Specifically, what is this project about, please?
Okay,
Minister Zakwana, if you could...
Sorry, if we can just allow the Minister
Yes.
to respond.
Yes, if he could also give details of what the 16 billion comprises, loss of stock, loss of a lot of cross... I just wanted like a breakdown, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Okay, is that fine, Minister?
Yes, our understanding is that farmers are worried more about their ability to plant come the next season, and the fact that they're highly indebted to different banks. Hence, we have said to ITC and Land Bank, can you assist farmers where possible? Make sure that the kind of loans are such that it will not further expose them to anything. The 1 billion rand put aside by government to assist in the drought will also come handy. But the debate is ongoing. Yes, the issue is about loss of stock. But must remember that agriculture is not only exposed to this kind of drought. The highest cost that farmers are incurring is due to the fact that most of the input that we need in agriculture are imported. You speak of fertilizer, you speak of tractors, you speak of most of the other things, and you speak of it that our farmers are less protected by government than they were before 1994, when we opened the sector to other participation and also took away those covers, like they would have the maize board and all those things. Those would cushion the situation we're in. And I hope that as we debate this drought, we're not looking at the drought, but we're looking going forward. What do we do to make sure that as a country we're better placed in dealing with this? Changing the methods of tilling, doing more in terms of finding new cultivars that will stand the drought conditions. So I think that as a department, we're thinking beyond. And I think we have got a buy-in now with the participants that we need to do things more smarter, as informed by COP21, as to what must be done, the issues of mitigation and adaptation, how do we make sure that we use better methods, and how do we use water. The fact that we have got lesser hectareage that is under irrigation is also a risk, because if we would have had more maize production under risk, and how to incentivize farmers to produce grains like wheat is also a challenge, because half of our wheat is imported, irrespective of whether there's rain or not.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I was just seeking clarity in terms of the specific question. There is a current discussion, as you know, that there will be an SEZ in Musina district. They were currently in discussion with one of the Chinese investors in the sector around metallurgical technology, steel and mining construction sector, who are going to be investing there this amount of money. Those are kind of discussion, but at this point, because we have not concluded stakeholder engagement, we are unable to give full details of this particular project.
Last one was on land reform budget lower. Yeah, remember that the Minister of Finance, as well as the President, of course, and the ministers who spoke during the debate, all of them indicated that we have to spend within our means. And therefore, we have to do a lot of reorganization and rationalization of the budgets. So it is not something really that is not as a result of the global economic situation and we find ourselves in. It is something that all of us as government departments are supposed to do. We will then have to plan according to the money that we have. for as long as we're going through the situation we're in right now. Thanks very much. Welcome, Minister, Ministers, Education, Higher Education, and Minister Kwele. Minister, we don't have, you can see, thanks very much. You will respond from where you are. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Can we give Pretoria an opportunity to ask questions? Yolisa, over to you.
No questions in Pretoria, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we give Cape Town an opportunity to ask questions and follow-up questions? Okay.
Hi, thank you very much. It is a follow-up question and a question for clarification. Minister Zokwana, did I hear you correctly when you said 6 provinces have been affected by the drought? I thought it was only 5. And if it is 6 now, which one is the latest? Agri-SA, Grain SA, and a whole other range of farming businesses like Agribiz have been on public record calling on government to declare a national disaster. Those are organizations directly involved with the agriculture sector. And I just wanted to find out how far are discussions, because, for example, the Drought Task Team had requested government to help assist in paying farm workers up to 1,000 rand a month. Where are those discussions? There has been a request also from the Drought Task Team, which has brought everyone together, including government departments and the IDC and various other organizations, that there should be surety. How far is that process? There is a concern that farmers will be in very difficult position come August, when a series of loans are due. There are issues that were raised under the National Credit Act, so that extension of loans, for example, would not be possible. Where are these discussions? Thank you.
Okay, there was another question up there. Please identify yourself.
My name is Bulelani. I'm from SABC. Just a follow-up question to Minister Nkwinti. On this view that was aired by the President last week on the land claims, has there been groundwork that has been done with regards to that? And whether would that be something that, as the department, you support? And just a last question to Minister Olifante, just an update with regards to the issue of a minimum wage. When can we expect finality on that? Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Just on the expected rise in food prices, we know that your average basket of food is going to see quite a steep increase, according to the Agriculture Market Research Council. And then also, I think last week, the chicken producers alone were saying that they're expecting like your average 2-kilogram bag of chicken to go up, or they're expecting to ask 7 rand more for that. And, you know, is government concerned about this? And are you going to be appealing to retailers to not pass this on to consumers?
Thank you.
Thanks, Minister Nsimandi, just so that you don't feel left out. I was at Stellenbosch University last night, and all was calm and wonderful, and learning was taking place. Are we making progress in the higher education sector? How far are we with all the falling taking place?
Thank you.
Just a follow-up on the food inflation and the chicken, specifically with regard to AGOA, the first American imports are coming in. My understanding is that at least 50% of that imports is going to go to your sort of previously disadvantaged communities. So, I'm just trying to figure out what sort of, on what basis will they be encouraged to pass on or not to pass on the added cost to the consumer? I mean, is there something they need to kind of like regulate so that, because I suppose the first time entrants, they'd want to make as much profit or money as they possibly can, and they'd want to sell their quota of chicken that they get at the highest price. But now, given in this rising inflation, how are we going to kind of balance sort of these competing needs? The second thing also, please, just a point of clarity on page 6 again. Sort of the second paragraph, the second sentence, third sentence. Exploration of shell activities. This is certainly new to me. My understanding is that this is still it hasn't been decided yet. Can you indicate to us if this like going to commence in the new year? That seems a bit final. Who are the license? Who are the people that have been given the exploration licenses? How many exploration licenses have been approved at this stage? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There are no more questions from Cape Town, as I understand it. I just want to get an indication, Ulisa, are there any questions in Pretoria?
No questions in Pretoria, thank you.
Okay, those were the final questions. Over to you, Minister.
Thanks. On the provinces, KZN was the first province to be declared, even there partially, as a drought. And then the whole province was declared as such. Limpopo was Northwest, Free State, Western Cape and other provinces like the Eastern Cape only declared part of their provinces. And those processes are still under verification, because after declaring, you have to ensure that that has been verified to meet the requirements thereof. On the issue of loans, as to where the loans how the loans will be covered, as I have said earlier, in our discussion with the commodity organizations, the view was that what they claim to constitute the 16 billion rands that they were looking for can be met if the government can, working with IDC and Land Bank and others, make sure that the banks, the farmers are assisted going forward in terms of making sure that the loans are extended and that they are ready to plant come the next season. Yes, we let me say that we do have a committee that does a coordination of this drought, comprising of the organizations like agribusiness, and Grain South Africa and others. They sit on regular basis. Our understanding with them is that we need to ensure that we assist farmers. First, what we did was assisted the smallholder farmers, because we use the funds that are directed to assist them, because otherwise that they will not be able to plant for the coming season. Therefore, there is a broader debate, and I'm still believing that we are working with them in a way that would make us a shield and also assist each and every farmer going forward. Well, I'm aware of the fact that the Western Cape provincial government has used their allocation for the purposes that were mentioned, where they assisted farmers to pay their farm workers. Those debates are still ongoing, because we have to make sure that funds are used properly. By the way, the 1 billion rands of set aside, not only for, but we need to agree with the farmers as to as to how do we use it going forward, because we have to sustain that farmers are on the farms and able to plant come the coming seasons. The debate about food prices is true. We do have, as you have said, NAMAC is doing our food price analysis so that we guard against. And I agree with you, we need to make sure that retailers don't take advantage of the current situation we're in, because according to information that our maize stocks will last us until April and some later than that. So, but of course there is a panic, because but already plans have been made to make sure that the importation of maize will be done properly through a Transnet agreeing that they have got capacity to take that and be able to process the processes. So there should be no fear that at one time there will be no feed for livestock or maize for food for human beings. And the issue of combating needs, yes, of course, we need to guard against that, so that people are not overexposed. On the issue of chicken, I will not say that the arrival of the American chicken pieces will assist. I'm not going to debate that at this juncture, but it will, of course, guarantee that there will be chicken in the shops, and maybe that can also balance us, because one of the things that will cause higher prices to go up is the increase in chicken feed. So hopefully we will not see a situation whereby, and I take the point that there is a possibility of chicken going up by 7% or 7 rand. No, we will take care of that. But remember, at home we're also dealing with the issue of brining, which is also a challenge. That when you buy that 2 kilograms of chicken pieces, 0.5 of that may be water and salts. We're debating that. We're trying to put it down, because as it is part of what we believe, put people who buy especially our poor people would, like myself, would buy that part of chicken and end up having only 1.5 as what would be meat.
Thank you very much, Chair. On the finality on the national minimum wage, there are two critical issues that are still debated by the task teams, particularly the wage inequality task team. The issue is the level at which the minimum wage should be set, and also there is a request by business that particularly organized labor and the community must indicate whether there are going to be exclusions or exemptions. So immediately when they agreed on those two issues, then we'll be able to say then how are we going to go forward, because there should be also amendments on the legislation, particularly when it comes to the basic conditions of employment and the Labor Relations Act. But also we have said the task teams must also indicate when we are intending to implement the minimum wage. Then after that, that's when we will say then we'll be able to conclude it by when. But for now, we can't say when are we going to conclude it. It will depend on the social partners whether they agree or not, particularly in terms of the figure and the issues of the exclusions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Minister. Yan, I must say that I was really enjoying my piece together with my two colleagues. And I was going to write this in my memos, as my first press conference that I wasn't asked a question. And instead, I hope that you were going to pose a question to my colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, to comment about the outcome of the Pirates Kaizer Chiefs derby last Saturday. No, Yan, thank you. No, there is lots of progress. Actually, virtually all our universities are hard at work with their academic programs at the moment. But of course, I'm concerned about TUT, the Tswana University of Technology, that because of disturbances, they've had to close those two campuses in Soshanguve and ask the students to leave, as well as UNISA. We are in engagement with the management there and other stakeholders, really urging them and asking them the question, why can't they find a solution? Because we're concerned, end of the month for most of our universities would be halfway mark for the first semester. And we're really trying our best to make sure that even those institutions are actually back at being functional. But we are quite, we welcome the progress that has been made thus far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. On the question by the SABC, no, let me repeat what I said earlier on, that since the President made this statements in the House, National House of Traditional Leaders. This is the third time, as I said earlier on. This matter has not been brought forward for any action, neither by the President nor by the Minister of COCTA. So remember, this is not a departmental program, it's a government program. If the President makes that announcement in the National House of Traditional Leaders, the Minister there, would report to government. So the matter has not been brought to us, in a sense. So there's nothing to say on it further than that. On the exploration, would you want to comment, or anybody, before I take it? No, look, on the exploration, I would like to say that the matter is really under discussion. So let's leave it until we get a conclusion on the matter, and then we can definitively speak to it. I really appeal that we will leave it at that at the moment. All right.
Minister, sorry, I've went with what is contained in the statement, and it seems very definitive. So.
There is a lot of discussion that is going on. Remember the Minister recently went to the Karoo last month with his team, including the Director General, and it was quite a team. They went over there. They had discussions with communities there as well. That's around Krafren. They went, in fact, to Craddock, and there were discussions there, and that's why I'm saying, for now, let's leave the matter as it is, so that there is a definitive and a conclusive report that comes from government on the matter through the department. All right, let's just leave it at that. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Minister, there's one more question. Are you prepared to take the question?
It's for Mr. Patel.
Okay.
Minister?
We're going to say now, request Minister Patel to just give a roundup on the infrastructure, because infrastructure is a cross-cut across all of the things that we've been talking about. Just for him to give us an overview of that. Thanks very much. Minister?
Thank you very much. A conspiracy between Linda and the chairperson of the cluster is an unusual and cruel thing. I think during the SONA debate, quite a lot of information was put into the public domain on infrastructure. For me, the highlights, perhaps just to focus on, is we're spending more than R1 billion per working day on infrastructure. If you look at the last 12 months, the period that we're looking at, the infrastructure program accounted for R290 billion of expenditure. Now that would be for your roads and ports, renewable energy, the housing program, water and sanitation, but also social infrastructure, higher education, basic education, and so on. That's an extraordinary amount of money that is certainly one of the key reasons why we haven't gone into recession. So the role of infrastructure as a counter-cyclical pressure in the economy, if you like, as a contribution to maintaining growth has been very important. And I think what we did in the SONA debate is we indicated some key outcomes to that program. 100,000 houses built. Even in a period when there's been enormous pressure on budgets across the board, we've been able to connect in the last 12 months 265,000 new homes to the energy grid. There's been, that's roughly equivalent to 1,000 homes Monday to Friday, 52 weeks a year that's connected to the energy grid. And we did that for a range of areas. And I think it's important that be seen as not only responding to social needs, but also as a counter-cyclical effort. In the period ahead, there's a number of new major infrastructure projects where we've done work on funding, on environmental impact assessments. I see my colleague, Minister Molewa, just came in a few minutes ago. Getting water use licenses, other regulatory approvals, and so on. So over the next few weeks, we'd be able to say a little bit more in detail, but I think the good news is we're now confident enough that we've resolved most of the key challenges for the next big phase of mega projects to come on stream. Of course, as we do this, as we look at Klein Willem, as we look at the end to Wild Coast, and you'll see some of the details in the printed presser that we've given, the N3, the Makolo Crocodile Water Augmentation Program, that's the big water pipeline that's going to push water into Lephalale. As we do that, there's also important lessons from the current infrastructure program. How to contain costs, how to keep to schedule. And that's going to be a big focus of our work now, not only to cut the ribbons on the new programs, but also to see that some of the lessons are incorporated in there. So overall, Chairperson and members of the media, I think what we've seen in infrastructure is a maintenance of the high levels of spending and investment. Minister Gordon, in his budget speech, particularly drew attention to the importance of infrastructure and to the need to maintain spending, and he announced the figures for the MTAF period, for the medium-term expenditure framework period. So you'll see a greater focus in the period ahead on getting new projects on stream and taking the lessons of, because infrastructure it's like a school. You're learning all the time. You make mistakes, you've got to incorporate that in your new programs. So I think broadly, it's acted to stabilize the economy, and I hope that's anticipated Linda's question. I can see Linda's not completely covered.
If I could ask you, Minister, in your annual report, you mentioned strengthening the competition authorities. What's in the pipeline on that regard? Thanks.
I've got a budget speech coming up. I've got to be able to say something to attract the media to the budget speech. I invite you to that budget speech.
That's all. Thank you very much. Minister, welcome. Now, SABC, thank you very much for showing the beautiful model for one household, 1 hectare. It was really nice. You showed it on Saturday, you showed it last night again. Thank you very much. And the meeting is over. Thank you.
Thank you for attending. Thank you, ministers.